Can you win despite the outcome? Hi, I'm Anne-Margaret with this week's Sacred Sunday message to raise the vibration of your body, mind, and spirit. So, something incredible happened this morning, and I'll tell you about it in just a second. To prepare this talk today, this week, in thinking about all the unresolved emotions and charge and energy around this election, I was thinking about speaking how to just be in that space where, despite what the circumstances are, that you can win, you can be in a good, healthy place rather than be bounced around by circumstance. So when I posted about this yesterday, and I saw that the media announced that there was a projected winner, even though there was no legal affirmation of that yet, I started getting really nervous about our country, both sides. I got nervous for Biden supporters that are under the impression that this is a done deal, and I got nervous for Trump supporters who saw the media announce this without having a legal support around it, and that the unrest, that civil unrest that is impossible to not occur at now because of that. And it was almost like, and I put this in the notes too, it's almost like watching a horror movie where you think that the threat is dead, and then everybody starts to relax and party and have a great time, and then the threat returns and everybody screams and popcorn flies up in the movie theater and everybody gets taken by it. And this is not a horror movie, although most of us kind of feel like it is, but how do we stay true to the course until we have integrity around everything and we can finally truly exhale rather than exhale under pretense? I think that's very dangerous, and for both sides, I think it's very challenging for this country. And to be set up, what if this election gets overturned in the courts? The amount of upset and civil unrest for Biden supporters will be massive. And if it doesn't get overturned, and we do have a legal proceedings that shows that Biden actually won, then everybody will then be able to go, okay, exhale. Trump supporters will need to get on board with Biden as president. But we're not there. That's why I'm very nervous for both sides, and why I chose this talk today. So rather than us being reactionary, like a pinball kind of knocked around inside a machine, how do we pull out of the machine? How do we pull out of the polarity to be able to choose how we're going to move through our days, how we're going to ingest this information, rather than be subjected to the whims or the emotional projections of others? This is so cruel. If we're able to do that, we'll always come out winning because we'll have our peace of mind, our integrity, and our chosen frequency. So here's what happened this morning. I woke up and we were nice, snug in the bed and safe inside, but I heard this wind. It's the kind of wind that whistles your windows and the fireplace, and such tumultuous energy. And I thought, oh my God, what's going on? And I thought, well, isn't this really indicative? Why isn't this a reflection of nature of this country and the civil unrest that is sure to happen, this crazy energy right now? I thought, wow. And I walked in the other room and it was almost like I was resisting this crazy, intense polarity outside, energetically, but then also this very real wind. And I look outside, and in a miraculous moment, I see this little tiny sparrow. If you don't know what sparrows are, they're really teeny tiny birds, and they are so adorable. And we live on a lake, so we see birds of all kinds out here. This little tiny sparrow just having a blast ride in the waves of the wind. And I thought, now there's a master, there's a guru, there's a teacher right there. And then I started reflecting about the different geese and the ducks and how different geese deal with the weather here. And we're always so amazed that, like, in the middle of winter, these geese will have like snow coating their backs and they're still like hanging out in the lake. But I looked at that little sparrow, and then the next thing I did is I saw a sparrow on the top of a tree, and just on the highest branch it could be. And the wind up at that level must have been, I mean, you could see him, he was kind of like holding on and just in the depth of the thickness of the intensity of that wind, holding on riding that bucking bronco, like really into this intense energy. I thought, well, that's an interesting choice. So that's sparrow. And then if you know geese and that how they behave, they really stay with a flock. So the geese in intense wind will all stay together in formation like they are in the sky, almost like that, but more in a clump. And they'll face in the direction of the wind. So it's so interesting because these three choices where you feel the charge in the air and with this wind, you know, in these three examples, it's like you have the tribal resistance of the geese. You've got the solo resistance up of that, on top of that tall branch by that sparrow. And then you've got the sparrow who's just kind of like coasting in the breeze and riding the waves, kind of like surfing all that's going on. And then I thought, but what about the eagle? Because the eagle is such a spiritual bird, and I wore my little baby eagle feathers that I was gifted by a Crete elder, Native American elder. And the eagle, and the reason why they're so sacred is they're the highest flying birds, and they have the ability to see everything unfolding below. And they can even get out of that really tumultuous wind and get up to like the really calm breezes where they can just soar, and they're so gorgeous. It's like when you're going up in the air like an airplane and you hit the turbulence and then you get up and then there's peace. So the eagle, I started thinking about the eagle, and I thought, wow, it's just so interesting that we can choose no right or wrong choice, but we can choose all these different ways to navigate the tumultuous winds that we're experiencing. And I think about the masters, the teachers, the people I really look up to, and they're the ones who are not about winning or losing. They're not about the right side or the wrong side or pointing the finger. They use every sort of discordant thing that they go through in life as a teacher. They use it to grow and to gain more self-knowledge. And they really see like anything that they go through personally as a microcosm of the macrocosmic world, or vice versa, so that every step of the way they can use as a way to grow. And when I think about speaking up online here, there is a hesitancy of talking about all these things because of the fear of backlash, because increasingly we have such an intense polarity. And you guys know me by now, you know I stay politically neutral. Everything I do is with the intention to serve both sides of any sort of polarity or engagement. And when you think about polarity, polarity is really taking sides, and it comes from a place of fear. If you've chosen a side, and you feel free to choose a side, absolutely. But when you start rejecting the other side so intensely, it comes from a fear-based place. It comes from a lack of true security or faith in your true stance, and the desire to control or eliminate or squash the other point of view. And we have ventured more deeply into the waters of a culture that is really much like, if you're not with us, you're against us. And I think of like history this playing out, like with the witch trials and with public lynchings of people that the public didn't understand or they disagreed with, and then they just tried to destroy them. So it's really important as we look at this, remembering history about when people are jumping to conclusions about people to kind of put them in a box. Like so many people try and put me in the box. Oh, you're a Trump supporter. Oh, you're a Biden supporter. Like all of this. What if we could pull up out of the polarity and see the game going on, rather than project about who we can trust out of a fear-based place of wondering who's on our team and who's not. Now, in this argument, right versus wrong, when we have an argument in our own family with somebody, think about something and you are so sure that you're right and you're so sure that they're wrong, and then they are so sure that they're right and they're so sure that you're wrong. In that dynamic, there is no growth, no peace, no ability to see a third option possible. And if we're going to find common ground with each other and we desire unity, we must be willing to be wrong and see something we didn't see before. So it's not just about winning and losing, and this topic of winning and losing today. There are dimensions to each. So it's not like, I won, yay, I won the election. You lost the election. Oh, we lost the election. You guys won the election. Or it's not fair. There are dimensions to winning and losing. And I think about sports. I was a huge, huge tomboy growing up. I love sports, and sports fascinated me and still does. And I think that's also, in addition to nature, a great metaphor as we're moving through this, and helps to lighten this intensity we're feeling. When we're watching a really good game and we're invested, like we have our team playing, it's kind of boring if our team crushes the other team or vice versa. It's kind of a boring game. It's kind of painful, and we're like, ugh. It's really good when it's close. But there's an emotional engagement when it's our team and we're playing and it's close. What I find fascinating, I love, my dad always talks about this. He's like, I'm just enjoying this game because I don't really care about either team. Like, I just am enjoying the game. And if it's a really good game, you can enjoy without that emotional attachment of over-identification with a winner or a loser. And then you can just enjoy the game. Now, the most incredible moments, and you see this on sports reels all the time. I know I'm talking about sports and you guys are like, I had no idea you like sports. I love sports. I grew up a tomboy, right? The most exciting moments are those moments of comeback where, I mean, in football where you've got this guy carrying the football. He's so excited and he spikes the ball and he doesn't realize he spikes the ball like 4 inches or 4 yards or not even a yard, like even inches before the actual end zone line. And he starts celebrating. And then the other team realizes what happened, picked up the ball and runs it all the way back for a touchdown. The one team thinks, yes, they've won, and celebrating without realizing that there's a couple more things they needed to do in order to win. And this is so exciting. And you guys know the parallel going on right now with what's going on. Celebration before the actual legal announcement. We've got to stay true. If you're a Biden supporter, you must stay true and say, we've got to keep going until we actually get that legal affirmation. And if you're on that other side and you see the fumble happening and you say, you know what, this wasn't actually a victory, you need to stay true to that as well. Those errors that are forced or unforced in sports are the most exciting times of them. And Yogi Berra, my dad loves Yogi Berra, he always said it ain't over till it's over. So with this and what we're going through right now and the polarities that we're seeing with the teams, how can we be a stance for justice within the game so that we can honor the referees? You know, there's a huge penalty for beating up the referees in a game, right? Because the referees are like, I don't care who wins, I'm going to stay neutral and I'm going to make sure that we're all following the rules. And when something happens where a call is challenged by the opposing team, which is quite literally happening right now, there's a moment, there's a pause, there's an assertion of looking at this and saying, you know, was this a foul? Was this completely legit? And then once we do that and we get beyond that, then both teams can go, all right, well, we looked at it. It was reviewed by an independent third party, and we can move on. And then it's so much more empowering that way. Because when there is threat of cheating, when there's a threat of injustice, as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, that is a threat to justice everywhere. If there is an injustice anywhere, there's a threat to justice everywhere. So it is so good for us on both sides to say, let's prioritize making sure this was legitimate. Because if you think about somebody like Lance Armstrong, who was hailed as the #1 cyclist in the world, and then when it came out that there was steroid use, how devastating that was. And my heart, because my compassion and empathy goes out to like the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place winners of the Tour de France or whatever he won, thinking like they legitimately won and it was taken away from them because of the cheating that happened. So it is, as a country, we are very divided right now with our teams, our sports teams. I'll just say sports teams. But if we can honor that, we can rise above and protect the actual game. Protect the actual game, because if we don't protect the sport, we've got the polarities, which are the teams, and then we've got the institution of justice, of the voting system. That is the sport. We have to protect the sport, regardless of what side we're on. So that's so, so important. And we've lost all if integrity is compromised. We know that. So how do we know we're winning? When our integrity is in place. When we know truth and justice have been served. When we know we can place our faith in the institutions that are the fabric and foundation of our country. And we know we're losing when that is not being served. So I put a couple oil recommendations in the notes for you guys. Peace, which is an incredible oil blend, and also rosemary, which is the oil of knowledge and transition, so that whether or not your team wins in this experience, you can come out on the other side, accept and embrace the outcome. Okay. I also shared a link to the movie Rudy and also to the biography of Rudiger, I think it is. It's an amazing story about somebody who didn't necessarily win everything he thought he would, but won the long game. So, love you all. Keep raising the vibration. And thank you so much for joining me today. Bye.